Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor. We've been live and we just went through the latest lawsuit from the latest accuser of Diddy.
Another one.
So many popping in. We had John Witherspoon here breaking it down with us. John, thank you for being here as always. Look, we just went through the lawsuit and you can go become a member. Hit patreon.com/popcornplanet. Watch the full member streams. You always get the full thing there. And we'll go through it line by line. But it's very triggering. It's heavy. The big takeaway though for me, and we were just starting to talk about it, and I thought it'd be better to give you guys a recap of what the stream was. It's just the fact that Tyrone Blackburn, who made this, and I don't mean any disrespect, I just don't think it's helping the case. What's really frustrating about this case is it gets bogged down by talking about Diddy's small weenie, to actually quote it as he does in this thing so strangely. It says I gotta just be prepared. Here we go. It's just so weird the way that it all is written. Well, he calls it adolescently. Sorry, I had it right here. Where adolescently, why can't I find it now? Adolescent in both size, length and girth. Like adolescently in both length and, width. Girth would be even worse. But John, why would a lawyer put this in there? I mean, you could argue, okay, well, you want to know that she's seen it, so we can argue that, but that doesn't mean it was seen unconsensually. It just feels like a bitter, like, look, Diddy's wiener is small, as sort of an FU to Diddy, which I'm for at this point. I'm not Team Diddy. I don't want to seem like I'm supporting Diddy by any stretch of the imagination, but this just feels petty and unnecessary and potentially risks what the real victims that are coming forward. The last lawsuit that we just read through didn't have any of this. The photo, tons of photos of like, see, I was at parties Diddy threw. See, I knew him. I'm real. Da 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 da. Check it out. Again, none of this proves any of these more serious allegations that she's put forward, which are serious, and I don't want to say aren't true, but it's just all very strange to me. So I'm curious, and just to give a summary before we get to John's analysis, the summary of accusations is that she was a student at Fashion Institute of Technology and doesn't explain how she met Diddy, but somehow this college student connected with Diddy and was hanging at the studio. And then they were sort of friendly. She was offering her opportunities. And then one incident sort of happens, a very bad incident of SA without her permission. And it's not good, guys. It's really written poorly. I mean, it's hard to read and it's not written poorly, but it's just makes Diddy look very poor and bad and illegal and awful, the monster that he is. But where things get a little strange is that she immediately comes back. And again, I know that happens. That's a thing. But he writes this line, Tyrone writes this line, she believed that the first R was a possible mulligan and decided to give him a second chance. Look, I get people come back to their abusers, but the way this is written, John, well, maybe that first RAP was a mulligan. And, maybe he didn't mean it. I'll give him another shot. That just goes against everything to me in my bones of like, what? And maybe it was an instance of, I don't know what to do. He's paying my tuition. He's doing all this. But it's just written so poorly. Do you think that the way this is now presented could actually hurt the case?
I don't think in the grand scheme of things it would hurt the case, but I would certainly agree that it is it's a little bit unlawyerly, I think, without being too critical of another attorney. It's not something that I think a lot of lawyers would do, to use language like that. That is, you could characterize that in any number of other ways, and to sort of throw in, slang like that or lingo or however you want to characterize it is not something I think a lot of lawyers would do.
And I've seen the chat, and you've said it too, like going back for more is the thing that happens. It's really sad. It's truth. People have their reasons why that happens, or they're threatened to, which this woman does say happened. There are serious allegations. She goes back 4 times, guys, and it happens 4 times, horrific incidents that are detailed with alleged witnesses and things. That, look, seeing what we've seen of Diddy, it's not that I don't believe her. I'm more and more mad at the approach of how it's written, because I think it takes away from the seriousness of the allegations and tries to make it more petty and weird. And that's my biggest cutoff of just like calling it a mulligan is adolescently small in size. Like it's just so weird. And again, sure, proof that they know each other because she shares all these things, but it's going to get a lot of criticism too. I've seen it in our own chat while we were live. Well, yeah, it sounds like she was trying to get him to give her stuff. Like that's what's going to happen from critics and people who are going to blame her, which I don't want to do here. I'm not trying to do that at all. But again, I just think this approach is not as effective. But overall, we've seen what Diddy's capable of, and we've talked about it. And you do feel that it doesn't sort of matter if it's written poorly. It could still be effective. I mean, how do you think this will affect the case? And are the feds then, you think, talking to each of these victims that are now coming forward? Because again, it's
another
like
one.
DJ Khaled, it's every day we're getting another one coming out of the woodwork, and they're all following the same MO of, he give me something that makes me feel dizzy and not aware. It does all feel very related. Do you think the feds are paying attention, or do you think they've even already spoken to her?
It's possible that they would have already spoken to her. I don't know. My guess would be probably that they have not. But there's no reason why they could not speak with her. Law firms and the feds have typically investigators who go out and talk to people just like this and say, hey, what kind of information do you have that would be potentially relevant? And keep in mind, the feds are presumably looking at a RICO case, which requires some predicate events. And they might have seen something in this filing that would pique their interest, that might be useful to them in a federal criminal case. So yeah, I mean, they're certainly not going to say, oh no, we don't have any interest in speaking with somebody like that. If there's somebody who has intimate firsthand knowledge of his behavior and things that he may have or may not have done, yes, absolutely, they would want to speak to her and try and pick up some intel that would be helpful to them.
What is your biggest takeaway from this as you read it as well? Was there anything else to sort of mention overall that you found the most important part or telling?
I think the most important thing for me is that, as we have talked about before, DV and SA types of situations are less about feelings and gratification and that type of thing, and much more about control and about dominance. And if you look at that aspect of this case and of these allegations in relation to what we saw on the CNN video at the hotel in Los Angeles, there's a very clear pattern of very inappropriate activity, and consciously so. If you think about the Los Angeles hotel video, where Cassie ended up on the ground, and then there was a period where presumably he had the opportunity to reflect on what he had done. He took that opportunity, and what did he do? He ran up and used his foot on her, not once but twice after that. It clearly indicates that there's somebody who really has a domination, a control type of issue that he does not have an ability to keep under control. And we're seeing shades of that again in this case that has just been filed by April Lampros.
Yeah, I mean, it is a good point to also bring up as we're recapping. There's definitely the control is something that it is his MO now at this point, of just sort of the threats. You can't do anything about it now. There's a whole part of the lawsuit where she alleges that he made her go along with Kim Porter at the time, and then Kim got so upset later because that happened that then they called and had her fired from her job. Which, if there's anyone to confirm that, again, all this looks really bad. The substances. Even though she comes back, which people are going to be critics of, it is a thing. The lawsuit mentions that, that happens to people who've been in this situation, sadly. But overall, yeah, it's a very ugly picture, and one that is believable given what we've seen Diddy's capable of. But not just what he's capable of, John. My issue is I'm forever biased now. It wasn't the acts that we saw, of course, horrific, unexcusable. It was the added fact that he tried to paint Cassie as a lying, clout-chasing blackmailer, to me, really set the tone for we can never trust this man again. He's out there saying, it's all false, yada, yada, yada. And then as soon as he's caught, Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. Like it just, dude, you should have done that right when Cassie, when you settled. If he had settled the lawsuit with Cassie and was able to put out something that said, "I'm really ashamed by my actions with Cassie. I was not a good man to her." You could have been vague, right? And I've been working on myself. It would have been way better legally, I imagine, than that complete denial. Correct?
Absolutely. And a lot of people are scratching their heads and saying, well, why in the world, if he knew that what Cassie was alleging was correct, why in the world did he not settle with her until the day after he uh, had the got slapped with the lawsuit from her?
Right.
He got the worst of both worlds. He not only had all of this dirty laundry aired out, but he also had to pay her. I don't know. I think $30 million was the figure that was tossed around. He got the worst of everything, and he really did himself a disservice by allowing that paperwork to get out into the wild.
Well,
Andy, I just want to mention one other thing too, that to go back to what you were talking about in terms of the overall level of brutality, and we touched on this a couple of minutes ago. But if you're engaged in some sort of physical activity with someone else, if it's a man or a woman or whatever, and this is something that's brought up in this case in the parking garage episode, if you're involved in some sort of activity with another person and the other person has tears streaming down their face as you're going through this activity, and that does not dissuade you from stopping, or it does not encourage you to stop, you have a real problem. And I think that's one of the things that I think everybody finds so shocking about this. It's just inhumane. And then the other thing is, in the episode with Kim, where he wanted to get this woman,
Yes.
April,
Yes.
and Kim, he wanted to get them medicated. And he basically, if you've ever, what's described is the same way that you would give a pill to a dog, by holding the dog's jaw open and ramming the pill down the dog's throat to make sure it gets into their stomach. That's what he's alleged to have done to Kim and to the plaintiff in this lawsuit. If you think about the mindset that it would take to do that to another human being, as has been alleged here, that is just beyond bizarre.
Well,
It really is.
It's such a specific detail, but and again, seeing how he treated Cassie in that video so just carelessly, just no care in the world, it's believable. Yes. It is. There are moments that's believable, and that's, again, to wrap it back around, I'm frustrated at the way it's written, just because there's a few little moments throughout this lawsuit that just don't help, in my opinion. They just seem a little salacious for the sake of press and attention grabbing, and I'm not sure why this Mr. Blackburn keeps resorting to that. Well, I can. He's getting marketing. It's a marketing angle to try to poke at Diddy, and maybe that's what it is. By going after his manhood, he thinks he's going to lose it, and that'll help the case, and maybe it will, and maybe we'll all see at the end of the day that Tyrone was right, but it's a little off-putting. But I did want to ask that last question on that topic, going back to why would Diddy do that apology? Why would his lawyers? That's where I'm still trying to figure out. Wouldn't the lawyers know? Wouldn't the lawyers ask him right away, like, Diddy, what have you got? What do we got to be prepared for? Is there video of this? Is there something that's going to come forward? You would think his attorneys would have been privy to know the skeletons that could come forward, and that they wouldn't be out there making those comments and allowing him to make such comments if they knew, correct? Or do you think it's more likely they just didn't know and Diddy was lying to them?
Well, I mean, I'm glad you threw that option in there, because the lawyer can only do the best job of representing a client with good information from the client. If the client's not forthcoming, if the client holds things back, if the client is deceptive, then the lawyer is kind of stuck with that. And they may well have gone to him and said, hey, look, we need to understand all this stuff, because there might be something else coming along. And he might well have said, no, there's nothing else. And then all of a sudden the lawyer gets blindsided by finding out, oh, lo and behold, there's this case that's popped up in New York, in Manhattan, and you didn't tell us any. Well, I forgot about that, or I didn't think that would ever happen. And again, that's part of the reason why this legislation was put into place, was to allow all of these things to come up and be litigated in the interest of justice for these victims. So The lawyer can only work with what the client gives him and or her. And in this case, it may have not been a complete picture of what was going on.
There's a lot more to go through. We got so much more here. Make sure you hit that subscribe if you haven't already, guys. If you're watching on the replay or here now, I want to make sure you know how to do it. Join our alert squad, hit that bell so you get all the alerts. Then when you get the videos, click them. It's like a game. And then when you're here, click the like, smash the thumbs up, leave your comments, stay engaged. We got so much more on this topic, so don't go anywhere.